Welcome, everyone, to the Salt Lake Expositor. Megan and Randy, it's nice to see you in the United States.
Good to see you, Gene. I'm glad you're back in the land of the free and the home of the brave.
It is always a pleasure to see your bright, sunshiny face.
Yeah, I am wearing a shirt I got from Thailand.
Nice.
I like it. I guess those are the elephants in the room.
The elephants in the room. So this show is because there has been lots in the news about cold shoulders, we'll say, or the lack thereof, maybe in the future. And so one thing I wanted to let people know is that there was on Megan Hayes' channel, Mormon News Update. She had a friend who allowed her to read her story. And so I thought I would share that with us today. So I'll add it to the stage. And we'll just start off with that because it will generate lots of thought and hopefully reaction from people. And so here we go.
And now, with the permission of a friend of mine, I am going to read her experience when it comes to being a teenager, the LDS Church, and the new garments. She said, I was 15 years old. I'd gotten a new dress I was very excited about and decided to wear it to church. It covered me, clavicle to ankle, in a loose-fitting black fabric. The catch? It was a tank top cut with wide straps at the shoulder, but for the bare shoulders, this dress was pretty conservative. That Saturday evening, my dad and I had discussed some things that were very revelatory to my young mind. The following day was fast and testimony meeting, and I was excited to share what I'd learned from him with my community. I donned my beautiful new dress and, feeling classy, headed off to church with my family. I can still remember walking proudly up the church aisle, ready to share my perspectives. I stood at the microphone speaking of light and darkness, innocently assuming the people there, including the men, wanted to hear what I had to say. When I left class to use the bathroom, the first counselor in our ward passed me in the hallway. He was a married man of middle age, and I was dear friends with his daughters, so I trusted him completely. He pulled me into an empty classroom and shut the door, saying he wanted to talk to me about something important. He told me that in Elders Quorum, the church meeting for the grown and married men, he had heard several men saying very disturbing things about my appearance that day. He said he wanted to pull me aside to make sure I knew that I was responsible for their thoughts, that many of the young men were preparing for missions, and it was my job to be sure their minds were in the right place. He made it clear that I must never wear this dress again. I'm not summarizing him. I'm quoting him. The shame I felt, not just that I had caused men to have terrible thoughts, but that I had so proudly marched myself up in front of the entire ward that morning. They didn't care about what I had to say. They only cared about how I looked. I never shared my testimony in that ward again. Possibly the saddest part of this story is that because I trusted him, I bought his narrative. I internalized it, and this experience shaped the ways I interacted with men of all ages for many years after. I held several callings working with youth and women, and I passed this wildly broken narrative on to all of them. This experience caused ripples of harm in my life and the lives of others. Many years of therapy later, I realized that what I was told was profoundly messed up. I realized that he should have addressed the men's behavior right then and there in Elders Quorum, made it clear to them that they were being disgusting, and leadership would not tolerate abuse of the children in the ward in any form. I realized that he never should have spoken to me about it at all. That burden, the one he placed squarely on my literally bare shoulders, should never have been mine to carry. Imagine the feeling of having been put through this and many dozens of other shamey situations, all because of bare shoulder flesh. Imagine that, and then imagine watching videos of Mormon women line up by the hundreds to purchase the new garment design. A garment design that would have, without a doubt, worked with my black Sunday dress. Apparently, Jesus and a bunch of octogenarian men have decided shoulders are now perfectly fine. Imagine trying to express pain and surprise that everything we, the girls and women of the church, were put through was completely unnecessary. Imagine being dismissed by the younger generations of Mormonism. I've been told it was never about modesty, as if little me didn't sit face to face with that narrative at 15, as if I didn't lug it into adulthood, worried what the men will or won't think, afraid of being seen but never heard, desperate for approval. I've never really returned to that confident girl I was that Sunday morning. I'm not alone in these experiences. Every woman I know who grew up Mormon faced immense pressure to keep the men's thoughts pure for them. Turns out Jesus never cared if shoulders were visible, I guess. And now leadership doesn't care either, which begs the question, what was the point? And last up today.
So there you go. What do you think about that, Megan?
Well, I can honestly say I feel a lot of the same feelings. As a Mormon woman, I was told as a young girl, as a 12-year-old girl, I was told that I was responsible for the thoughts and feelings of men. And that's an incredibly harmful thing to tell a 12-year-old kid, that I had to watch how I dressed, I had to watch how I acted, I had to watch what I said, because a man could take what I said out of context, or he could look at what I was wearing, and that would cause him to have impure thoughts, which would then cause him to sin. And then I would be responsible for him, eventually losing his salvation potentially. Like it was such a burden, kind of as this person is talking about. It's such a huge burden to be a woman in the church. And every single time I would get dressed for church or a church activity, I would have to be constantly adjusting my outfit and thinking about whether or not it was too revealing. And there was even a man in one of my wards when I was growing up that got up during testimony meeting and asked women to not wear clothing that had their back exposed, because even if they were wearing garments and the garment scoops down a little bit on a woman's back, he said, even with garments, a lot of you are wearing things that are too revealing on your back, and that is arousing to me and to other men. And I was like, okay, you're basically just, exposing your kink there, which is not, not to kink shame anybody, but it's just to say that there were men openly getting up in meetings in front of everybody and telling women that their clothing was too revealing and that it was causing them to have bad thoughts. I mean, I just want to ask, have either of you in your entire experience in the church ever been reprimanded for what you wore? Probably not a single time, right? And for us, it was a constant message. There were lessons, there were talks, there were, it was just a constant thing. And I even had one horrible young women's leader when my girls were young women. And in the young women's room, in the closet, she would keep a pair of big baggy sweatpants and a big zip up hoodie. And if any of the girls ever wore a skirt that she thought was too short, she would make them go in the bathroom and put the big sweatpants on instead of wearing the skirt. And she would, if they had brought something that had no sleeves on, she would make them go into the bathroom and change into this zip up hoodie. And it was sort of like a scarlet letter situation where you're shaming young women for their choice of clothing. And they're having to go and change and wear something ugly so that they remember next time not to wear something that is what she deemed to be too short or too revealing on the shoulders. And so, it's something that young women should never have to bear the burden of, changing their behavior and their dress and their thoughts and their clothing in order to protect men from whatever thoughts that they're having.
I'd have to say that there was something in the culture, and we always say, oh, they're just men of their times or whatever. But I distinctly remember hearing lots of comments like some woman would get graped, as we say nowadays or whatever, and it would be a tragedy. And maybe there would be even a death involvement. But people would say, I wonder what she was doing at that time of the night. Or I wonder what she was wearing that would cause a man to do something like that. And
Victim
those are
shaming
so
and
harmful.
grape culture.
Yeah, grape culture. And it's such a damaging thought to think that for some reason men can't control themselves, right? The thought should be, hey, we control ourselves all the time. There are speed limits, there are, rules of behavior in school, there's rules all over the place. And yet for some reason, in movies and other things, there's, there's yes means, no means yes, right? We were told, like women don't really know their emotions, but you really have to kiss her deeply in order for her to understand what a good spot she's in with you. And it's just horrible. And I'm glad, we are waking up without saying the other W word, right? We are. The society is. And what's that show where you say, may the something be with you? Not Force, but Randy with the Red Riding Hood women. What's that called? Handmaid's Tale.
Oh yeah, right.
That whole show is supposed to be, this is what we shouldn't do. And yet there is a certain political faction that thinks that's a game plan. That's where we should be heading. The good old days where women are kept controlled, and women have certain uses, right? Some women could be your wives, some women could be your child bearers. And it's just so horrible, that we have these cycles, and sometimes there's de-evolution going on, in my opinion.
Yeah, the thing is, and thank you, Jean, for saying that and for validating that, because, there is so much of that pervasive, the shame in the, victim blaming of saying, well, what did you say to provoke him if you got hit? Or what did you do? If you were in an essay situation, how did you entice him? Those kinds of narratives. And I can testify that, or I should say, I can attest that when I have, reported things, that those questions got asked a lot, and it still unfortunately still goes on. But to go back to the idea that at one point we as young women were shamed if we showed our shoulders, and now it's just perfectly fine. That's one of those, it's like a temporary commandment, right? Imagine all of the young men and young women who are prevented from going on missions and prevented from getting married if they had gone too far with their, significant other. And imagine if now the church said, you know what, it's totally okay if you have sex before marriage. Can you imagine how many people would be absolutely outraged at the consequences they experienced as a result of breaking that commandment, when then that commandment was rescinded? And that's how a lot of women are feeling right now. It's like we got shamed for so many years for what we were wearing, for not having our shoulders exposed. And now it's fine. No big deal. Totally fine.
I'm angry. I am angry at today in general, because I did a little research on this and clipped a few videos. And I am truly angry at the fact that I spent so many years in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I look back and I wonder to myself, how did I fall for this? How did I fall for all this bullshit that a person shouldn't be subjected to? Yeah, I have a quick video to show you. And the woman on this video, man, I'm learning that the hardest part of being a post-Mormon podcaster is not just losing my crap, not just coming unglued at some people. Because this woman on this video I'm about to show you it's really not what she says. It's just the goofy ass way she says it, with the Mormon smile on her face, the holier than thou, proud to be humble kind of smile. It really rubs me the wrong way. And I will
I bought this dress
for you
knowing
right
that I
now.
would have to alter it. I am an endowed member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which means I've been through the temple and I wear garments. Fashion standards for the world do not match my dress standards. I plan buying things knowing that I'm going to need to alter them, like this neckline. This brings on a whole nother conversation. Your choices of what to wear on the outside start with your why behind them. Start with what's on the inside. What's inside your heart, not just what's underneath your clothing. When you focus on the inside, you'll know what to wear on the outside. And the inside changes, you start to realize that you can change the clothing on the outside. We live in the world, not of the world. We're going to dress differently. We're going to stand out. And that's a good thing. You got this. I bought this dress knowing that I would have to alter it.
Yeah,
I am an endowed member of the Church of
You know, that's what I miss the most, is being able to be smug and know it all to all my friends and stuff. I miss that.
What her smile says to me is, I'm so much better than everyone else. And look at me. I'm happy to be wearing this special underwear of the garment of the holy priesthood, as it's called. Are you effing kidding me? This just disgusts me. And it disgusts me that I went for years and years and years, 45 of them, playing into this cult atmosphere. It just burns my butt. I have more videos, but I'll wait and let y'all comment. But boy, I'll tell you, I wore a special shirt today, Gene, like you wore that cool elephant shirt. But it's my black sheep shirt.
Very appropriate. I love it. And you know what I especially like about it is that I don't have to look at your porn shoulders, because I might have some nasty thoughts.
I know. I would be the cause of many women being immoral if I happened to show my porn shoulders, because they're unresistible, irresistible.
You could probably go to a talented barber and have all your chest hair shaved away except for a black sheep shape.
If we go to this view, you can see that I wore my shoulders proudly for this episode. So I hope everybody appreciates the pornography.
How many men are you affecting right now, Megan? How many men are going to be sinning this afternoon because of you showing that skin?
Not enough, Randy. Not enough. Oh, and then I lost my camera, of course.
That's a sign straight from God.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I've put the link in the chat. If anybody wants to come in and talk about this.
It would be especially great is if we had any women who would want to come and talk about this issue. That would be awesome.
Women
would love that.
So yes, Trevor, unless you're wearing a dress, and plus Trevor, you're so much needed in the chat always. So
I guess we should say nobody should join the link unless they are showing their shoulders. I guess, that's the other thing, is that I remember many, many times walking through the gym after a Wednesday night activity and seeing young men playing basketball wearing tank tops. No problem. Absolutely no problem. So that's really frustrating to me too, that, the young men could wear whatever they wanted. They were discouraged from taking their shirts off during basketball unless there were no women in the building and they were playing shirts versus skins. But I just found it, it's just super annoying that they were so dogged about constantly telling us young women, talking to us about what we were wearing, rather than, the boys were never talked to about that. And here's one more little tidbit of female modesty that I want to make sure that we at least touch on, as long as we're talking about modesty. When I would go to girls' camp from the time that I was 12 to 18, we were not allowed to wear a two-piece bathing suit. Not only that, but we were not allowed to wear a tankini, which a tankini covers your entire midriff. But we weren't allowed to wear it because it was two pieces. Now, what was the reason that we were given for not being able to wear two-piece bathing suits? It was because there was going to be a male priesthood holder attending girls' camp. So what is that message actually saying? That message is actually saying that there's going to be a man in camp And rather than being weirded out by the fact that he would be attracted or somehow aroused by seeing young women from 12 to 18 in bikinis, instead, we told the young women that they needed to be in one-piece bathing suits so as not to arouse the one man who is a priesthood holder coming to supposedly protect the young women as a priesthood holder.
Oh, brother. You know, that's one thing I hated about the ward swimming parties or my family reunion meetings is that all the women wore clothes into the pool. Now, if they want to wear one-piece swimsuits, whatever trips their trigger. But just to make sure that there was no skin in the game, they would wear complete, T-shirts and pants into the pool for a swim party. And that makes me, what made me feel angry about that is, don't flatter yourselves, ladies. There's nothing that you being in a swimsuit would do for me. I don't care if it is a two-piece. Come on. And especially in my family, who do they think they're going to tempt? Like my sisters, who do they think they're going to tempt by wearing clothes? What? Come on.
It just shouldn't, it's just something that should not have to be so jealously guarded, in my opinion. And especially if we're going to harp on it so much, then we're going to change it. And now it's like, no, this is fine. And what's going to happen sometime in the future? How temporary is this commandment going to be?
Yeah, temporary garments.
Yeah. It's annoying.
Hi, Diamond.
Yo.
How you doing?
Well, Diamond,
good.
you get to represent all the ladies in the audience now.
Yeah, I'm here to drink beer and talk about porn shoulders. That's it's wild. I don't. Here's the thing. I don't actually know how long the garments are gonna last. And the reason for that is people are talking about like modesty in the chat, and just the way at least I was taught in the church, right, is that you wear it because it's not an outward reflection of your religious affiliation like other religions, but it's like a personal covenant that you have, right? But if they're going to just keep decreasing the size of the garments over the course of history, because that's something I looked into actually, like the original garments from back of the day are nothing like the modern day garments before the tank top garments, right? They're nothing at all like. And so I'm wondering if it's just going to like phase out with the church going to mainline Christianity, because mainline Christianity says, yeah, we have personal covenants, but they don't have the garments, right? So
I know at one point the church leaders, there's even like in, I don't know if it's the Council of 50 or way back in Joseph Smith's day, they talked about these things. When should we wear the garments? Megan, you know something. You're aware of something. What was Joseph Smith? What type of underwear was Joseph Smith wearing on the day he needed the most protection of all?
Victoria's Secret.
Well, Victoria's Secret is that her underwear is really uncomfortable. Let's take a look at the evolution of the temple garment.
And we'll say right now, Joseph Smith was not wearing his.
He was not wearing his garments when he was in prison. So in 1842, they had a full-on collar. Let me see if I can make this bigger so it's easier to see. There was a full-on collar as well as, sleeves that went all the way to the wrist and then little ties down there at the ankles. It was a two-piece thing. And then 1842 to 1975, they had this thing that was like tied. It's a pop-up. Oh no. I hate it.
Can you X that out?
Like it won't let me exit out.
Click on continue reading. Yeah.
So this little thing actually is not, it's probably not the best depiction that I've seen of these, but again, continued to have a collar. There was a tie at the top. there was a tie here, and then this part was actually just open. The crotch was just open so that they could use the bathroom, because it went, again, all the way down to the ankles, and it was a one-piece deal. Then there was the evolution with like the little flap or whatever, and then it turned into the two-piece thing that we know now. And now the women's garment has, no sleeves available, which originally we were told that it was just for warmer climates. And now apparently that's not the deal. It's available to anybody now.
Yep.
Amazing. I'd have
I
to
saw
say the first two versions were very Arctic friendly.
I saw
Yeah,
a
but
thing
also-
where. Oh, go ahead, Megan.
Just thinking about the fact that, women in the church were the ones who were making these garments. And that's a fairly complicated, especially the first version, that's a fairly complicated piece of clothing to make, with a collar and sleeves and wrists and all of that stuff. So some of it, some of the simplification of the design might have been an efficiency issue. And, Kirsten and I are, our episode on the temple garment is going to be coming up on Thursday, actually. So it's funny that we're talking about this now. But, just the idea that the church still charges people to buy the magic underwear when they could literally give it away for free and see, zero impact to their bottom line. I'm upset about that too.
I remember seeing the cashier, the cash register in the temple. And the first thing that I thought was money changers thrown out of the temple.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That they charge us to rent the temple clothing too.
Yeah.
Ugh, come on.
I saw a thing where there was like, when it was announced, there was like a whole thing in Utah where it was like underground black market for the new garments.
Yeah. There were a couple
that
of
was,
people who built a business on that.
yeah, that was, excuse me. That to me was just wild. But yeah, I don't know how long, especially too, because I think it was was it Rebecca Biblioteca that talked about this, or I don't know. I saw this somewhere, but there's a lot of women now, and especially younger women, who don't wear the garment bottoms at all because of like health issues or for like menstruation or whatever the case is. Right. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Because I
Yeah.
heard there was a lot of backlash on garments about that. And that like that could be another reason why at least like young ladies just, I mean, it stands to reason, if you don't wear the bottoms, why would you wear the tops? Because it's
Right.
a one thing. And so younger people aren't wearing garments anymore.
Yeah, when I was instructed on the wearing of the garment, I was told to wear it day and night. I was told to not look for excuses to take it off. And the older lady, she was in her 70s, who was instructing me, basically said that, there are all kinds of rumors about when you should take it off and not take it off. Some people say the 3 S's: sleeping, sports, and sex. No, swimming, sports, and sex. And then there was like that rumor of, you should leave one leg on while you have sex. That some
Wait,
people,
really?
of the
No.
old, some people of the older generation, that's what they believed they should do, because they shouldn't be taking off their garments. So, there's all kinds
my
of
gosh.
folklore and rumor. And that's what happens when you have so much secrecy around a thing, is that people make up their own thing. And then there's all of these rumors about what's the proper way to dispose of the garments. My parents would always cut the markings out of them. Some people burned them. It just, there's all of this rumor and speculation that goes on around when you should and should not be wearing them. But the bottom line is that it's not high quality material. They use very cheap fabric, and a lot of women have health related issues around wearing the garment, and they just don't wear it anymore because it's an ongoing health concern for them. Nor should they have to wear this underwear that was designed by men with no consideration for women's needs in that. And, I'm sure they consult with the Relief Society sisters or whatever, but ultimately they're the ones who make the decision. And I can totally imagine women in the Relief Society bringing up these issues and saying, hey, we have all these women with ongoing health issues because of the garment. and the men coming to the conclusion that, like, well, if they were faithful enough, they wouldn't have those health issues, and the garments are magic and they would solve it. So
Now they can wear a slip now, right? In place of the garment bottoms.
that's what I've heard as well, which, like, okay, do you want to just think about that for a second, guys? If you're wearing a slip under a dress with no other undergarments.
I think I'm going to think about that for more than a second. But anyhow,
Well, just like Mormon women don't have, like, when I was a faithful temple attending Mormon, I maybe had 2 pairs of underwear that weren't garments for, like, you know, doing yard work and other stuff where I was going to be super sweaty. And so if you're telling women to just wear a slip under their dress, most Mormon women are not going to know that they also probably need to wear additional underwear, because they probably either don't have it or they don't think about that. And that's one of those things that, like, as leaving the church, where you finally get to make your own decisions about what underwear you're going to wear, which, think about that for a second, about how ridiculous that is. You know, you go into a women's underwear shop and you have no idea what to do. It's like, then you have to, like, experiment with this all over as if you were a 12-year-old girl going from Hanes to real underwear for the first time. It's just ridiculous.
Well, Megan, you're supposed to pray about your underwear.
Oh, right.
You'll get revelation.
No.
Forgot.
Well, and take a priesthood holder with you when you go shopping for underwear.
Right.
Because
Guidance.
they're the ones that know all the you need to
Aren't
know.
all the garments made outside of the U.S.? Because I remember seeing, like, even church-based articles where it'd be like showing the making of garments, and it was relatively recently, but they're like in Vietnam, and like Thailand, and I kind of looked at it, and it's like, even though it's nicer factories, it still gave me like sweatshop vibes in a way. And I'm just
100%.
like, hold on a second, like. I mean, if you're gonna use a sweatshop, can you at least be like, I don't know, like can you be like Nike and just be honest about it?
Right.
Like,
well, if you think about the amount of time that it takes to manufacture a garment top and a garment bottom with the markings in it and everything, you think of the variety of fabrics that they have and the variety of sizes that they have, and then they charge what, $3 or $4 per article of clothing. There's no way they're making those ethically in the United States. They're definitely using cheap labor outside of the United States.
And I want to go back to the slip for just a second. So my 86-year-old mother-in-law is a true believing member. She had a wow experience as a young Baptist wife, right? So that's the only church she had really gone to was Baptist, but she wasn't, I don't know if she got baptized in the Baptist religion or not, but that's what she knew. Her husband had been Baptist, and she was taking the discussions, and this is in the early 60s, 1960s. And anyway, she became convinced that the Mormon church was the true church, right? And she's been that way, raised my wife to be a true believing member. And my wife and I have found things that make us believe otherwise now. And we've been able to share some things with her, like Joseph Smith being married to all the wives without Emma knowing. And she just like, oh, well, God somehow didn't want that to happen. Blacks not getting temple blessings and receiving the priesthood. Well, God had, he's on a different timeline than we are. And she has had all kinds of excuses. And then 6 months ago, I told her that there was the new garment style, and that there's a slip that has the markings on it, and so women can wear their own underwear underneath. And she was like, no way, almost like that's impossible. She worked at the garment center. She sold underwear. That would be the worst travesty of all if the garments changed that way, right? So all these other problems, and yet that might be the one thing that makes her start to think, about the truthfulness of the church. And so it's just something I want to mention.
I think it's kind of weird because Gene brought this up, and I've been thinking about this. Like, when you hear of these wow moments of people joining the church, like they just seem kind of off to me, right? Like converts, because I was a convert and I've got my kind of my own reasons, but like I had a wow moment, and I call it a wow moment like Gene does, because it's not like you don't need a wow moment to join the church. It's just like for whatever reason, oh, okay, she joined the church, right? But I mean, like when you think of wow moments, it's like I quit heroin and opioids and hard liquor cold turkey because of like a wow moment, like something that's like phenomenally shifts your life.
That's
But
a
other
silver lining.
people, yeah. It's just interesting how the LDS Church tries to play on that and like, I don't know, force their own so they can make you wear the garments and get you to pay for them.
Right.
You know,
in Christianity, all you have to do is say you've been saved by Jesus, and you have a saved moment, and that's personal. But to the Mormon church, it's like, okay, well, now you can pay tithing, now you can go to the temple, and now you can be weird like us forever.
here's something kind of funny. I can't think of any time, and I might not be speaking for every man, but I know I'm speaking for myself. If I'm going to fall to temptation and I decide to have, make sweet love to someone, I can guarantee you that as I'm taking my clothes off, I'm not going to look down and say, oh, crap, I forgot. I'm Mormon. So I'm just going to set these thoughts aside.
The last line of defense.
They don't stop you from anything. It's just another way to control the members. It's
they stopped women from looking good in clothing.
Have you ever subscribed to something and then you forgot to unsubscribe when you find out it's not right for you, and they just keep taking money out of your account? And then when you discover, oh, hell, I've been paying for this for 5 years and I'm not even using it. On a small scale, that's exactly how I feel about the church. That's exactly my sentiments, is that, oh my gosh, how many years did I waste not even benefiting one iota from being a member of the church?
At least when you unsubscribe, there's a customer service you can call and maybe get 1 or 2 months back.
Yeah.
Of that 5 years.
I don't think they'll be given any of my tithing or time back, but and I know I'm not exclusive in this sentiment, but this garment thing has just pushed me over the edge about the control that they have over people, and culty control. Not just, hey, don't smoke, don't drink. Okay, I get that. It's a health thing. But wearing the garments is just proving to all the members that they are subject to whatever the church tells them to do. And we're going to let them decide what kind of frickin' underwear we wear. And I want to reach out and grab people by the neck and say, you're so intelligent. Why are you falling for this? But then it dawns on me that how many years did I fall for it? So it's not a matter of intelligence. It's a matter of control and being raised or convinced or indoctrinated to do what I'm going to call it a cult. Sorry, folks. But what the cult tells you to do, you better do, or you can't be with your family in the heavens hereafter.
Yep.
It's also interesting to hear that dynamic, because I think there's definitely a generational gap. I know a lot of like Mormons my age and younger, and they do it as more of a means of transactional. Like more of a transactional thing, right? Because like I love listening to you guys, and especially Megan, talk about like your experiences and kind of what you were taught, because the whole thing, and then it sounds like in that part of church history is, the family, and you won't see your family in the afterlife, right? When I joined, and I've been to like YSA meetings with my roommates, it's more of, we do these things so we get blessings. So it's like a subtle shift I've noticed. And I think that's why a lot of younger people still do it, because, oh, well, if I do these things and I check the boxes, then I'm going to get a good wife. I'm going to get a good husband. I'm going to get a good job. I'm going to have a family with a white picket fence. I'm going to make a lot of money, you know, and that's really interesting that you bring that up.
Well, you know, if any of those people are listening, Diamond Dave, those people that you're mentioning that are making it transactional, listen to this public service announcement to all of you. Since I've left the church, I've been richly blessed. I was no more blessed while I was in the church than I am out of the church. As a matter of fact, the peace that I feel inside and the happiness that I experience now can't even be compared to the frustration I felt the whole time I was in the church, knowing that, man, I don't like attending. I don't like paying my tithing, but I know I've got to do this if I want to be with my family forever. Good one, guys. They really pulled the wool over my eyes.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about, Diamond Dave, you saying that, you know, a lot of younger people attend church because they want the blessings. And, you know, as a convert, I'm sure that experience is a lot different than being in a, you know, I'm a 7th generation Mormon. I was indoctrinated into it. I did not really have a choice as to whether or not I was going to attend. It was just what was done in my family, and being subjected to that kind of mind control and then coming out of it makes you absolutely allergic to it in any other setting, you know? And it makes you hyper vigilant for it in other settings. And that's what I see about this entire garment thing, is the mind control that the church engages in with its members to basically say, this is okay. You don't need to worry about it. You know, these garments, it doesn't have to do, these changes don't have to do with your salvation. We're trying to make things easier for you. It's not that we're changing commandments or changing policy or changing doctrine. It's just that, you know, we're trying to make things easier for you. So they sort of gaslight their members in all of these changes. And we've, you know, tracked a lot of these over the course of the last few years with, you know, everything from David Bednar telling us that it's not the atonement anymore. It's the atonement of Jesus Christ. And don't refer to it as the temple, refer to it as the house of the Lord. And it's not Mormon.org anymore. Then it was LDS.org, but it's not even that anymore. Now it's churchofjesuschrist.org. So like all of these changes that they're making to make themselves more mainstream, they're trying to gaslight their members into thinking this was the plan all along.
Yeah.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
I agree with that. And actually, so I was watching a series I think is related to this, and it's called How to Become a Tyrant, right? And it talks about the dictatorship, the gaslighting tactics, and the cult mind control that they use, right? And they talk about the playbook and the strategies that dictators use. Well, what was interesting to me, and I think is relevant here, is Muammar Gaddafi stopped being a dictator and stopped doing the gaslighting thing, and people ended up turning on him, and, you know, he ended up being on alive for it, right? And I can't help but wonder, as the church becomes more mainstream, they're gonna have to let go of these gaslighting tactics, right? You know what I mean? To some extent, they're gonna have to walk back the whole, you know, it's, I could see them even not requiring garments anymore, and they've made so many changes, right? So at what point do they just keep becoming more mainstream, and then, like Megan says, you know, people become aware of that gaslighting, and the whole thing falls apart, right? It feels like a house of cards here.
Yeah.
Dave, the problem is with that, if they don't make people wear garments anymore, they might find that there's a great number of men in the priesthood, in the church, that start SAing little children because they no longer have those garments that keep them from sinning.
Oh,
And yeah, that's completely sarcastic. Because what do those garments do for those men when they molest innocent kids? Did the garments stop him? I don't think so.
And,
You know,
and I
that
thought
was
Randy was going to
actually,
say, I thought Randy was going to say the biggest problem is Mormons don't believe in playing cards.
you know, that was actually one of the things that I was told during my instruction about garments, is that one of the reasons why you wear garments is to keep you from committing adultery.
Really?
Yeah, because
what
it's
I
like,
was
you know,
taught.
if you're wearing all that, then you're not going to want to, you know, commit adultery, especially with another unbeliever. But, you know, we all know that that's absolutely ridiculous. It's the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah, they come off real easy.
Yeah, it's well, I mean, I heard that not the adultery thing, but I heard that it's a form of like spiritual protection. Which I'd like to know, why didn't it protect the people in the bus in what was it, Nigeria or Uganda? Those 12 people, they were all wearing garments. So why did
Yeah,
they
and
get in a car accident? Like, why are they dead?
it's another situation where the church wants to have it both ways, where they're like, oh, this underwear, and we actually, Kirsten and I just went over this because we recorded an episode on the initiatory yesterday, which will air a week from Thursday. But the words that they say is that these garments are to be a protection, a shield and a protection against the power of the destroyer until your work is finished on the earth. So what are you telling me? That those 12 people on the bus, that their work was finished on the earth and it was okay for them to die? And that's why the garments didn't protect them, you know?
Of course.
And there are all of these Mormon legends about, you know, oh, I was burned, but not where my garments were. Well, it's probably because you had an extra layer of clothing on. You know, it wasn't because the garments are literally magical. And then just think about, you know, if you think about the prayers that are said during the initiatory when you receive the garment, they're basically blessing every part of your entire body. And so how do you think people feel when they're disabled or when they get cancer or, you know, anything like that? They're like, why didn't my garments protect me?
Every
Yeah.
missionary who's ever served a mission will tell you the story that happened in their mission about, well, one version of it is the missionaries took their laundry to be done in a laundromat, and the laundromat dyed their garments pink and then hung them up in the window for everyone to see. So the missionaries dusted their feet off as they walked out with their pink garments. And of course, that night, the laundromat burned to the ground. You know, and I thought that was what a faith promoting story until I found out that it's in every mission or something
Right.
very similar to that.
Right.
And it never happens. It's just pure.
Randy's giving me
folklore.
ideas now. Randy's giving me ideas. Right?
You're gonna
So if
start buying garments?
the Mormon Church gets shut down in Mongolia or China or whatever, all we have to do is just break their legs so they can't dust their feet off, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That would take care of it.
Okay. All right. I only thought an apostle could do the dusting off, though. That's at least what I heard. I don't know if that's true.
There
I
are
don't know. I
apostolic
mean,
curses, but dusting of the feet is like
yeah.
any worthy 19-year-old boy can dust their feet on their mission if somebody rejects the gospel.
Well, and
And then
any
that
worthy
person will
19-year-old
die.
boy can raise their arm to the square and say, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus Christ. I mean, you know, we all have access to the same priesthood, right? Even women, because they use it in the temple.
Right.
No.
I remember the boy that came upon, well, a young man came upon Mark Hoffman when Mark Hoffman almost blew himself to bits. And he was said on film,
Oh, I
I
remember
blessed
that.
him and I commanded him to live. And the guy
Yes.
goes, you commanded him to live? He goes,
But
yes,
was
I
Mark
commanded him
was
to
Mark
live.
Hoffman wearing his garments when he blew himself up?
That's right. That's the question of the day.
I don't know if he was or not, but he lived. He did live.
He
I mean,
lived.
of course, he went to
Compared
prison,
to
but he did
Joseph.
live. Yeah, that's right. So I would think that would be more of a widely spread story, that Joseph was not wearing his garments, you know, because that would be a faith promoting story, right? He wasn't wearing his garments, so that's why the mob got him.
Right. And I think that is a true story that he was not wearing his garments. Just like it's true if there happens to be anybody who believes in Joseph and you haven't heard that the night before the murder, he and his fellow cellmates were able to consume wine to make them feel happier that night.
Right. It was sacramental wine.
And you have to have the faith to be shot and killed
Right.
rather than be protected.
Right.
I have
Joseph
my
had the faith not to be
sacramental
protected.
beer. I have my sacramental beer right here.
I have my cold brew peanut butter coffee that I saved for this show.
You did not advertise your delicious peanut butter coffee yet. So I'm glad to see that the endorsement is still there.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
And also, I'm reminded of
someday
Go ahead.
I'll reveal my new secret to making it, Megan.
Okay. And Diamond Dave mentioned that maybe the garment thing will go away. And I think they might do it because, like I'm talked about, they're always talking about things. They might make the garment just something you wear in the temple and not make it mandatory throughout your daily lives. And so that'll be
Yeah, I was
about-
wondering
they'll
how
hang
they
out.
would get around that. Yeah.
How about putting the marks just on a ring like the Masons and just wear the ring? You've still got the marks on your body.
Or
And I
tattoo it on
saw-
your forehead.
Yeah, I saw a comment in here, and I don't recall who made it, that the marks are now just silk screened onto the garments.
Yeah, the Kiki was talking about that now they just silk screen the marks on. They're not sewn into the garment like they used to be. And so it's just a screen print that goes over the front of it. But Gene, that would be absolutely wild if what they did now was insist that members get the marks tattooed onto their bodies instead of wearing the garment.
I mean, it's religious dedication. It's religious dedication. Other religions do it. I've seen Hindus with like full on, or even Buddhists like with full on Buddhas across their chest, or Lord Shiva like all the way down their back, like easily a $60,000 job.
What if they just branded us? That would probably be better if they had some kind of branding ceremony in the temple. That would be like the cherry on the top of cult.
Just think how many tattoos we'd have if every time they rebranded. It'd be
hilarious. It'd be hilarious because Megan brought up branding. The LDS Church is going mainline Christian, right? But wouldn't it be hilarious if they got that RFID chip that other Christians think is the mark of their beast? They got it here so you could just scan your palm and go into the temple. And then they tried to convince other Christians that they're Christian and they're mainstream.
Wouldn't
if you're
surprise-
going to go
amazing.
if you go the branding route, just do that. That'd be hilarious.
What if I took my Mormon card and I used the little barcode on the side and just got it, tattooed right here, and I
barcode,
flip.
the Mormon barcode tattoo.
I like it. I have to wonder, Megan, you showed us that graphic of the changing, evolving garments.
Yeah.
I wonder what it is that caused God to change his mind. Because at first, he would that we wear the full suit. And it's just gradually, there's been less and less material. Is God saying, well, you're so much more righteous now that I'm going to let you get away with a tank top and a slip, or a tank top and garment bottoms?
Well,
that would be like the apologist take on it, right? To say that, we've been so faithful in wearing our garments that God is rewarding us by, allowing us to be a little more lenient in our garment wearing. But in reality, it's really just, people didn't want to wear the full length garments anymore. So the Q12 changed it,
Well, that's because, Randy, you've got 17, or well, it's more like 12, but like 12-ish, 10-ish million people who are just praying to God on different things. And he's answering phone calls. And he's like, yeah, wear this. And then eventually he's like, oh, I was on the phone. I meant do this. And then, oh, I'm sorry. My one of my 10,000 whys was bothering me. I meant to say this. Like, he's just an incompetent like college intern. Okay, like it's not his fault. He's doing his best. He's got millions of phone calls and 10,000 wives. Like he's busy. Okay, give him some slack.
Right.
I saw the movie with Tim Carey, who's just,
oh yeah, he's
texting as
typing away
fast
like
as he can.
crazy.
Yeah.
No, I think that another good point of it too is that, God is awfully busy, and there's probably like a delay lag time between when he says something and when they receive it. And we know like 1,000 years of earth time is only one day to God. And so, he probably said, look, it's fine if you have Black people receiving the priesthood. So Joseph Smith ordained a few people. And then God was like, wait, let me think about it for a second. So Brigham Young was like, nope, no more Black people. And then it wasn't until 1978 that the message finally got around. But for God, it was just like half a second.
Things get lost.
Go ahead and do Black people. Wait, let me think. Yeah, go ahead and let Black people. So by the time that happened, it was, like 150 years.
So how there's there's a lot of cognitive dissonance, and there's a lot of contradictions, right? And I'm wondering if God changes so often that in priesthood quorum meetings, sometimes people say, could God be a woman because he changes his mind so often? Where it's kind of like misogynistic and allows for God to be a woman at the same time.
Yeah, as if men don't change their mind ever.
I'm still wondering how like time zones factor into like God's timing, right? Because like, if I pray for like porn shoulder garments, but you guys like the day before you guys do, like, do my prayers get answered first? Like, or like, what's the priority scale here?
I don't know. I think there's probably a significant delay between Kolob Standard Time and whatever time zone you're in the United States or in, Cambodia or wherever you happen to be. I think there's enough of a delay that it doesn't matter which time zone you're on on Earth.
Oh, so Earth is just dial-up internet, basically.
I think basically, yeah. Like
okay.
Kolob is already on the third version of whatever comes after high speed.
Last Tuesdays with Tim, Randy brought up the fact that according to rules, there's a lot of people that aren't going to heaven. In fact, there's only like 17 or 27 people actually make it into heaven. And that just made me think that there must be a hierarchy of answering prayers, like a certain race and then women and then men of leadership. And then like the very top is, the quorum of the 15 and then, the prophet. And we know that according to the last 7 years, if God wakes you up at 3:00 in the morning, you have to kick your wife out of bed so that you could write down the revelation. And
poor Wendy.
And it's basically at least 200 times he received revelation on where a new temple needs to go. And that revelation went against like every single person in the temple department. They're like going, hey, time out, slow down. And finally, we have a new prophet who's been listening to the temple department. And he says, yeah, all those announced, I wouldn't be surprised if they de-announce half of the new temples.
I won't be surprised if that's the case. I won't be surprised if they de-announce Mongolia. Speaking of which, I messaged you, Gene. Check your Facebook.
Yes, I got it and I did it. Done.
Thank you.
I actually would be surprised if they denounce any of the temples, because we know that donations always go up when they announce a temple somewhere, because people are like, cool, we're getting a temple. Let's donate lots of money to get it built. And so I'm sure that they're going to continue to say things like, we're working on it. We're working on the property. There's all these delays, zoning commission, city planning commission, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure they're going to keep that narrative rolling as long as the donations are coming in.
I
Why
mean that.
though?
Well, that makes sense, Megan. At least for stateside, because people can follow it stateside. But you look at Mongolia, and I brought this up in a past episode in case anyone missed it. But like in Mongolia, 2 years ago, people were excited. If you go on those Facebook pages, there's been nothing for the 2 years. People have
Yeah.
forgotten about it. You know what I mean? So I think if anything, it's going to be kind of a mix of like what me and Gene are thinking and what Megan's thinking is like they're going to keep the narrative rolling for like stateside ones because you can follow those and you can track those and it's closer to home and it is an emotional value.
And the
Nobody
profits
like
in dollars.
nobody in America can even like, no more unless they've been here to Mongolia. No member of the church is just really excited for a temple to be in Mongolia. Like it's a really off the wall, bizarre place to have a temple in the first place, right? Nobody's thinking about that. So maybe they don't just denounce it. Maybe they just kind of let it fall into the memory hole and then it just kind of goes away on its own. And that would be kind of aligned with how they do things because Randy brought up the essay cases of kids, right? And the church just never addresses those because their whole thing is, oh, well, if we keep it quiet, people will forget about it.
Sweep it under the rug.
Yeah, so they'll
it
probably
amazes me.
do that.
It amazes me that you know how Rebecca Biblioteca will cover the progress of temples where the cities don't want to give them permission.
Yeah.
Why do they ever even have those problems? Because these aren't just temples. These are the house of the Lord. So couldn't he just tweak a few things and push the temple right through and take away people's desires to block it?
Right.
Well, you know what the apologists will say, Randy, is that God is all powerful, but he's not going to mess with free will. So if people want to try to block the building of a temple and serve Satan, then he is going to allow them to make their choice to do that. And that's all they're doing when they're trying to block the building of the temple. They're serving the devil.
The same reasoning why the prophet and his two counselors don't wander through the halls of the primary children's hospital, curing kids in every room of their cancer and their ailments and the fatal diseases that they have. What,
that be
they don't have
cool?
time?
If at every press conference somebody asked that question to the Q15, oh yeah, the Q15 doesn't hold press conferences.
Oh, right.
No.
Because then they might have to, I don't know, if they did hold press conferences, they would only let people in from the Deseret News and whoever that reporter was that interviewed the new presidency and just lobbed them softballs the entire time.
All I know is somebody in my ward is third cousins to her.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think to answer Randy's question, the reason why they can't is because Mormonism and Christianity in general claims of these miraculous healings, right? Hinduism doesn't, Buddhism doesn't. And I mean, if you were to come into like Mongolia or go to India, there are monks and there are pandits, which are priests of Hinduism in India, that will go and they'll go to hospitals and they'll pray over kids and over sick people. But it's not like they don't claim that they're doing it for healing. It's good fortune, good health, and luck. And it's a family bonding experience. There's never a claim made like the Mormon church makes that, yeah, we can bless people and cure people of cancer.
Yeah.
So they can't, because if they were to start doing that and they were to go to children's hospitals, like I used to do fundraising for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, we can use that as an example. If they were to go and bless all the kids, it'd be like, yes, the kids will be cured of cancer. And none of them are, which would happen. Well, then the whole thing just collapses.
Yep, so true.
Yeah, I remember Randy saying that on one of our episodes, that like if you actually did have the power to heal people, why would you not just always be at a children's hospital blessing children and sparing them from unnecessary suffering? But they're not. Instead, they're roaming around the world in their $20 million jets that they don't pay taxes on.
Right. The new garments are also having a different type of effect on the members of the church and business people. They are spurring forth a whole new line of temple dresses and dresses in which they can be married, bridal dresses.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I just show this real quick. Time out here.
Oh, I see shoulders. I see shoulders.
Oh, that's a very wide neckline. That's a very low scoop.
Okay.
Situations bring you back to me. Oh, let's never break up. I guess you hope that's all. No matter, you say that I'm dying to forget. I
have to mute it so we don't get a copyright strike.
Randy, mute it.
How come they don't get a copyright strike?
Yeah, so well, there are certain songs that are licensed on TikTok that aren't licensed on YouTube. But this calls to mind so many stories of my friends who got married in the temple, who couldn't wear their wedding dress on their wedding day to their wedding ceremony because it was quote unquote not modest enough. And that is, of course, subject to whatever the temple matron says. So it's roulette again. And I remember Alyssa Grenfell saying that when she got to the temple, they held up a sheet of photocopy paper to her dress, and they said that her dress was not white enough because it didn't match the white on the photocopy paper, and she was not allowed to wear it.
I did not know photocopy paper was so holy.
Well, apparently it is in some temples, because that's the standard, that your dress has to be white enough and it also has to be modest enough. And let's point out that a dress with sleeves like this one would not have been acceptable a week ago or 2 weeks ago.
You live in the South, and there's a product that Texas was known for a long time. I think cotton, the cotton fields.
Right.
Are you aware what the real color of cotton is? Is it bright 94 white or is it kind of off-white?
It definitely is not bright 94 white. It is definitely more like a sort of yellowish color.
Yeah. And so that was actually one of my daughter's first aha moments, but like breaking down the mental barrier of am I really believing in the right thing? Just because there's a lot of things like that. It takes a lot, just like it takes 42 plates of cookies from your neighbors for your neighbors to accept the missionaries. The same thing happens when you're deconstructing religion. A whole bunch of things have to happen. And one of the things was, as a young mother and washing clothes for the family, she noticed that her garments, whatever she did, would get less and less white. And then she did some research and found out that they add whitening agents to brand new garments. And the more you wash garments, the more you wash those whitening agents out.
Right.
And she was like, they add white to it? Why would they do that? Right. And it's a purity culture, and white is better than non-white, we'll say.
White and delightsome.
White and delightsome. White is such a big point in the church.
Yeah.
So, Megan, are you saying that cotton balls that I have in my bathroom drawer, those fluffy white things, aren't just someone pulling a piece of cotton off and putting them in the bag?
Unfortunately, no, Randy. Those have been bleached. Yeah.
Even if they are made out of cotton.
Yeah, and they're probably not made out of 100% cotton, because that's a pretty expensive thing.
They should have cotton in quotes nowadays.
Right.
Cotton balls.
It's like when they sell you Velveeta cheese, they're not allowed to call it cheese. It's pasteurized, processed American cheese food.
Yeah, cheese food.
Well, the garments have to be white and delightsome.
Right.
So
maybe that's what God meant by white and delightsome. It's not about race. It's just like, ladies, wear really bright white. Yeah, bleach. Just bleach your clothes. Like,
yeah, I don't know. I I always kind of got a little bit made fun of in my family because my skin tone has a lot more red in it than the rest of my family members. So even like standing right next to my sister, right next to my mom, my skin is not as white as theirs. And so, you know, my younger brother used to always make the joke that I was not actually related to them by blood.
You were the Lamanite sheep of the family instead of the black sheep.
I was a FedEx baby apparently or something. I don't know.
Can we give you the nickname of Pinky?
Right. No, thank you.
So there are other things in the news. We have a new apostle.
We do indeed. Yes. And apparently he cares about the environment.
Wow.
I don't buy that.
It is one of those Mormon rumors.
So he got
Whatever it
elected
takes to make
apostle.
people like him.
I want to make some sort of play at some point on his last name and say, for a good cause. We're doing this thing for a good cause.
Yeah.
And so look for that in the future, either Tuesdays with Tim or
I'll hold my breath.
Salt Lake Expositor.
It'll make you all pink if you hold your breath, Megan. Breathe.
Right.
To be white. I had the privilege of escorting Michael Jackson on more than one occasion when he would come to Disney. And he has vitiligo where his blackness is coming off. You know what I'm talking about? It's
yeah.
It's a melatonin.
Pigmentation.
There was
or not melatonin pigmentation, yeah.
There was a Native American that I just read about recently, and you guys probably know. I don't remember, but he had the same condition. And one of the members said it's because he was so righteous that he was slowly turning to become white and delightsome. Serious? For real? So Michael Jackson was becoming partially white and delightsome.
Yeah, apparently he was getting more righteous as time went on.
And as far as I know, everything I heard about Michael Jackson, he would have been a great Mormon leader.
I'm not going to touch any of that. I was going to go back to
I'm not either.
to Gerald Causet.
Yes, let's go back to Gerald.
He's joining the Quorum of the 12 Apostles at the age of 62. So he's a sprightly young guy. And he's from France, I heard.
Yeah, you're getting old when you're older than like a handful of apostles. That's what Randy and I will testify to that.
Yeah.
You're the old man of the two of us, Gene.
I'll tell you the thing that I do like about President Causet, though, and I don't know the correct French pronunciation of his name. I would assume, I don't know. It's got the little accent over the last E. So I would assume that Causet is right, but I don't know. But anyway, one of the things I do like about him is that when he was the presiding bishop, the church did increase its humanitarian spending. So
that is pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, also while he was bishop, they got caught with their hand in the cookie jar on the SEC filings.
True.
and he knew a lot about Ensign Peak. So I'm hoping someday he'll come on our show and talk about all the secrets behind Ensign Peak. We'll call it Ensign P-E-E-K.
No, P-E-A-K.
So,
like a peak behind the...
Yeah, P-E-E-K.
Apron.
Peak.
Yeah.
Behind the curtain.
I don't know how I feel about the humanitarian things because so just working in accounting and like I've taken a couple courses. I'm not an expert, but just when it comes to fraud, a lot of fraudulent accounts are listed as humanitarian efforts, right?
That's true.
Uses slush funds. And that also just kind of reminds me of like the US aid that was cut. Right. There was a whole bunch of investigations doing onto that because some of that was going to like humanitarian efforts in Africa. But the US aid that was given to India, the $25 million, was actually all $25 million. It was proven that it was used in a propaganda campaign to overthrow Narendra Modi. Right. So when the church says, yeah, we're spending more on humanitarian efforts, I'm like, are you really? Is it really humanitarian efforts? And Kiki brought this up in the thing in the comments about she's heard that the church is not pro humanitarian efforts. And I agree with that, because at least from what I'm seeing here in Mongolia, and as well as India and other places, they will do things just so they can get the foot in the door.
Right.
And it's the bare minimum. Like here in
Right.
Mongolia, I shared this on Facebook. There was a massive flood where it was like sewage water, just flood everywhere near State Street Market. Like if they were really interested in humanitarian efforts, wouldn't building a drainage system for Mongolia that would be, sure, it would be tens of millions of dollars. It's much cheaper than it is in the US, and you can use it as a tax write-off, by the way. Wouldn't that be a great, propaganda piece to be like, yes, we did this?
Right, but instead the church donates a mop and a bucket.
Right. They'd have
Well,
members come and
I
clean
didn't
it
even
up.
get that there. Like,
one of the things that they said after the whole SEC scandal in that 2020 interview was that they don't want people to know how much money that they have, because then they don't want people telling them what to do with it. So I think what I can defend, I'm in support of everything you're saying, Diamond Dave and Kiki as well. Like, I know that it's not real humanitarian aid, but here's what I can definitively say. The church has reported that they have started spending more on humanitarian aid than they were in the past. Now, how they calculate that, we're not privy to, because they stopped being, transparent about their finances back in the 50s. But also, we wonder how this number is calculated, because we know that a lot of times they count hours of missionary service and hours of church service of their own members as a humanitarian donation. So,
that's how they
aren't really spending more money on it, but they're reporting that they are.
Well, yeah, I mean, now here's the thing. You can hyperinflate those numbers that way with like charity hours and things like that. And like when it comes to humanitarian efforts, I do think that they're spending more money, but I'm kind of getting a vibe here where like there was a billionaire in India who he was in the diamond business, and he had multiple shell companies, right? So he would buy he would have a diamond necklace for say $1 million. He would sell it to his own shell company for $2 million, and then he would just hyperinflate the price. So when it hits the market, it's now $125 million. Now, what I'm wondering if the church is doing is like, yeah, we're spending more in humanitarian aid and charitable donations. Here's where we're sending the money to, but they're sending it to either shell companies or wards in other countries. And then those wards send it to another ward. And then those wards send it to another ward, thus hyperinflating the number. When in all reality, the actual amount of dollars that is changing hands is very low.
Right. Yep. There are all kinds of ways to hyperinflate what they're actually donating. Without, and again, like Kiki and I have gone over this too on our channel when we talked about the top 10 wealthiest churches, that there are all kinds of ways that they, will give something to an organization that supports an organization that supports an organization that supports the church, and so they have all kinds of ways of hiding different things and, counting charitable donations. They're not that whatever I think it was 1.1 billion that they gave to charity last year, that was not cash donations to charitable organizations. Let's just put it that way.
Well, and that's the thing too, is like, I can use this right now from a financial side to prove that the church doesn't care about humanitarian efforts and is solely in the business of profit, because if they were to actually spend that amount on humanitarian aid, I don't know about here in Mongolia, but I know in India, wealthy people who donate huge amounts of money and give lots of amounts of money to the poor, they are literally worshipped as gods. Anat Ambani, during his $600 million wedding, fed 50,000 people 3 meals a day, very poor people, 3 meals a day for that week-long ceremony. He is worshipped as a god. So to me, that shows that they're in it for the money, because if you were in it for spreading the gospel and spreading the good news of Jesus Christ, you would want to dump a bunch of money into India because people will literally worship you and take your word as gospel. They would do the same in Africa.
Did he feed those people with just 2 loaves of bread and 5 fish? No, 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish? Something like
No,
that?
I actually saw pictures of it because I followed the entire wedding, and it was a very grandiose wedding. But I mean, like, there were literally hundreds upon hundreds of people in one photo eating really good. Like, they got the big circular plates, and it's just like piles of food, right? And I mean, he's worshipped as a god, right? And so it's like, if the church could step into India or Africa or any developing nation or even second world nation and start funding all these projects, you're going to get a ton more converts. You're going to get a ton more. You're going to get a lot of people who's going to be like, yeah, you know what? This is something I can be a part of. But they're not, which means they're solely into it for the financial gain and the moving money around to avoid taxes.
Maybe there should be a coronation party for Dallas Oaks, and then they could feed a few 100,000 starving people in Utah for like a week long thing. And
even if they do that in America, like, you know, if the LDS Church, yeah, I mean, but Utah specifically, like if the LDS Church were to eradicate homelessness just in Utah, in Utah, that would make national news.
Just on South Temple, all the homeless.
Yeah, but I'm kind of going big here because the church likes to do things big with its $250-ish billion, right? If the church could just step in and eradicate homelessness in just Utah.
Yeah. I mean, as I was deconstructing a little bit about 7 years ago, President Nelson was a new prophet, and he was making some strides and he reached out across the cultural aisle to some Black supporting organizations, NAACP, and gave $20 million for scholarships. Now, the small print was over 10 years the church did it. So I was thinking, well, $2 million a year. How much does college cost? I don't know, $50,000 a year. So one person's scholarship for 4 years might be $200,000. So that's basically 10. They were giving 10 kids. That's the donation, and it got big praise. I mean, $2 million is better than nothing per year, but still a drop in the bucket. I mean, probably Ensign Peak earns $2 million in the time it takes an apostle to take a dump. That's my guess.
Yeah, well, you're right. $2 million. What is that when you have $260 billion earning? I can't remember the statistics, but it's mind-boggling how much money is coming into the church on a daily basis. That's not even a day of interest to the church.
That's right.
So big whoop-de-doo, Mormons. Not impressed.
Well, yeah, and I mean, especially the spending power outside the US. If I had $2 million, I could, and this is a little project I'm working on, but $2 million, I could get drones during harsh winters. I could get drones that can fly emergency supplies from the capital to, where in the provinces where the herders live, nomads live, and just the provinces in general. I can get there in a quarter of the time, in a fraction of the time. I could also get drone-based ambulances, which Germany and stuff is going on. I can instill that entire structure for that amount of money here, right? And then have about 1.5 million left over, and I can dump it into something else, right? There's a dog in the background of Megan. Sorry, that was distracting. That was adorable. But yeah, so it's like $2 million. You could do a lot with that in a second world nation or even like a developing nation. $2 million in Africa, you don't have to work ever again. Ever. Your family's good for 3 generations.
just giving kids coats and shoes and food.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
the things that people need, they really need. You'd think that the church might be a little more active in that, but they don't. They don't care about that. That's not what they care about. What they care about is more members, more tithing, more publicity for more members, for more tithing, infinitum.
So Kiki reminds us that the church also has huge investors or investment in private equity. And you know, I've always thought that the Mormon church was a for-profit entity, if you get my double meaning there. And that would probably be a good episode on Tuesdays with Tim, would be all the different ways Mormons or the Mormon church does things to make money. Like, I know that, I mean, I've heard that, I don't have personal knowledge, that some people have bought up a tract of land, and then they donate a temple site on that. And then the church gets a temple site, and then they develop all the other land around it. I know that's happening. That happened, would look like it happened in Gilbert. I would have to look at the records. The Gilbert Temple has these 3 to 5 times larger than the average home it's built around it, and $1 million homes, when at the time homes were worth $200,000, and so there's that. But there's also people make money selling preparations for the millennium, right? The preppers, that the whole thing is a big money making thing. I mean, obviously books. There used to be advertisements in our ward directories when I was a kid, and then they shunned some things. They tamped down some things. We had ward bazaars when I was a kid, so that the women could raise money for their organization that they actually led at the time. And now the Relief Society is the largest women's organization run by men. And
it was one of those bazaars, Gene, where I learned to fish. It was awesome because
the magnet fish contest.
I would throw a fishing line over the curtain, and when I'd pull it back, there was a clothespin that had a toy on there.
With fishing
and
helpers.
I caught something every freaking time.
Yeah. You know.
So even their fishing tutorials suck.
Feed a man a fish and he's fed for a day. Teach a man to fish and he's fed for his life. So Randy,
Randy still doesn't know how to fish because of that. Just kidding.
Well, I thought that you just tied a clothesline or clothespin to the fishing line, threw it in the water.
Would grab the other fish that he didn't like and clip
them on, and I'd pull them back. But it hasn't worked for me yet. So
yeah. I apologize in advance for the crunching in the background. My dog is eating his food right now. Perfect timing. But I just want to say that, you can tell a lot about an organization by where they're, what their financial priorities are. And obviously the church ultimately is a collection of corporations, and they are a for-profit entity. They make a lot more money than they spend on helping with humanitarian aid. They have a budget surplus anywhere from $1 billion to $3 billion a year. And because, the tithing covers their operating expenses and then some. And what they could do with that $3 billion a year is they could end suffering and hunger and all of those things. They could even do background checks for all of their adult members to protect children, but they don't do any of those things, because the bottom line is kind of what you were saying earlier, Randy. The system exists to keep the system in place and to keep the power in power. And that's all it is. Bottom line.
That's right. So if people want to put their suggestions of ways that Mormons make money in the comments. I know that Tim was alive at the founding of the Zion's Cooperative Mutual, ZCMI, Zion's Cooperative Mutual Improvement Foundation. And Deseret News was a business that the church had until just recently, 50 years ago or something. All kinds of money-making operations, right? I think a lot of the sugar beet companies where that were incorporated were Mormon entities early on. So anyhow,
Well, that's about our time for the day, I think, guys.
I
Thank you
think that
for
is,
digging into the garment situation.
if people want
This
to
is just
join,
another example of how time flies when you're having a good time. And this is, like I've said before, this is kind of the highlight of my week, is where we get to come together and discuss these things. I'm
and I
still
was,
so peeved off at the church, but
yeah, as Megan was looking around at her crunchy eating pet, I was noticing that she could wear 2 garments underneath her top right now. Your top is so modest with the new garments there. You would have like an inch on each side.
That's a shame.
yeah, that surprises me, Gene, because I've
Oh,
been
yeah.
getting
Megan, you're muted.
really
Oh, there you
frisky
go.
just seeing her shoulders.
Yeah, we would have at least 5 more viewers if me and Randy also were showing our shoulders.
I know I'm really disappointed that you guys did not opt to show your porn shoulders for this episode.
I know, it didn't even cross my mind for some reason.
Maybe it's because you've never ever had to think about clothing before in a church context.
Tim, do you want to come on right now, or do you want us to
The after show.
stop the show? So the after show. So Tim's in bed, and we'll bring you back on. Thanks everybody for watching. Have a great rest of 2025. Randy, how many more weeks are left in 2025? Off the top of your
6.
head. 6 or 7 or 8, whatever it is. It's the end is near. If only Jesus knew. But anyway,
Well,
we'll talk to you later.
we love y'all.
Oh yeah, go to tomorrow night's show with Megan and Kiki.
Monday night, FHE Live.
What are you talking about?
Family Night Live. Oh, I don't know. I mean, whatever the next chapter
Whatever
is
the next
in the
story
Mormon
is,
comic book.
Kiki can put it in the chat if she remembers.
I would love to get on one of those episodes. That'd be fun.
It doesn't matter what the subject is. I mean, we know that it's going to be the next chapter. It's hilarious and it's awesome, and it's I have just a handful of very favorite things online, and Megan and Kiki are one of them.
And even if you can't make it on Monday, it's recorded, so you can watch it the next day if you have family night on Tuesdays.
That's right.
Maybe Diamond Dave could be a subject of a family home evening.
Well, I kind of wanted to get on one of those because, like, there's a lot I've seen that Megan and Kiki talk about that, like, converts don't know, right? Like, it's
Right.
what girls only, but it's Zenith, right? I don't even know what that is or who that is.
Yeah.
A kiss
But,
on the
yeah.
hand is quite continental, but diamonds are a girl's best friend.
There you go. So anyway, and then there's also Tuesdays with Tim, where Diamond Dave comes on a lot. And Megan also has her other content. And then I think on Thursdays are pretty much a common occurrence for her and Kiki as well. So anyway, and that's the Ex-Mormon Snark channel.
That's right. This week on Ex-Mormon Snark, we're going to be talking about the temple garment. Basically, like our experiences learning about wearing the garment and all of that stuff. And then the week after that is the initiatory ceremony. And then the whole endowment. We've been going along the covenant path. It's lovely.
That's
Can
right.
I suggest that you two both wear garments on Thursday for that?
Absolutely not. I will not. I refuse.
No, that won't work. Oh.
They can
I
show
think that's Jordan and McKay's thing.
of
Yeah.
the church's website that shows those garments. All right. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.